Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm not outside Old Trafford. We're here in the studio because we're live. We're doing it live. So do hit that like button. Do get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think. And, you know, let us know if you've got any news as well. We're not just giving you your news. You might have something to tell us. You might have some inside info. As you can see from the title of the thumb, there's a lot of talk about our favourite former manager. Yeah, all right. Jose Mourinho. Now, Paul Pogba's done an interview with Sky Sports. Now, usually what happens with these interviews with Sky Sports, he's done it ahead of the Burnley game, I think, you know, they're pretty beige. It's one of those players where you get sort of a couple of snippets. You maybe get something slightly exciting, slightly interesting, but by and large, it's one of those where you go, oh, you know what? Yeah, it's. I'm looking forward to the Burnley game, and yeah, you know, they're a good team, and I just want to do what I can for Manchester United. But this one has been a little bit more juicy, shall we say, because Paul Pogba has pretty much gone in on Jose Mourinho. Now, we know what happened with Paul Pogba and Jose Mourinho. It all sort of went sour pretty quickly. When Paul Pogba arrived, him and Jose had a very, very good relationship. People often forget that, but this first season when we won the Europa League and the League Cup, there was no issue with Paul Pogba and Jose Mourinho. In fact, it was the opposite. I remember Jose Mourinho sort of sticking up for Paul Pogba in press conferences, saying that he deserved more credit, saying that his mum deserved more credit because Paul Pogba has a couple of brothers, and I remember Jose Mourinho did a very sort of heartfelt, heartwarming press conference where he said, you know, when you look at his upbringing, you look at how hard his mum had to work and feeding 3 young growing boys who all play football. She deserves a lot of credit. She deserves a medal sort of thing. And Paul Pogba is a credit to her. It was really sort of very nice. Then things started to get a little bit sour in the second season, Jose's second season and Paul Pogba's second season, where Paul Pogba got injured, and then I remember I was actually at a press conference where Jose started sort of insinuating that, well, not insinuating, he said it. He said, I don't know where he is. He's injured, and I think he's in America, but I'm not sure. So, which was a bit bizarre, because you're like, well, surely you'd know where your star player is, and I think your most expensive signing, you probably want to know, you know, he might not be playing, he might not be training, but you'd like to know whereabouts he is. It was a sort of insinuation that Jose wasn't happy. He sort of made comments about the fact that it wasn't the club's medical staff that had been looking at him, it was his own, Paul Pogba's own, which again felt like a bit of a dig. And you could sense that things weren't going quite as well as we wanted them to as United fans. And then the final full season anyway. Well, it wasn't in the final full season, was it? It was like half a season. It all just went wrong. Paul Pogba went to the World Cup, won the World Cup, and we were all hoping this was going to be a catalyst, that he'd come back and he'd help us to win trophies and maybe make a real title challenge, because the one where we finished second wasn't a title challenge. We finished 19 points behind City. But that didn't happen. Jose made some comments about Paul Pogba in the World Cup when he was commentating that Paul Pogba wasn't happy about. And then there was all this sort of drama, wasn't there? You remember Paul Pogba came back and he was made sort of vice captain and captain as well. Said that he couldn't give an interview because he'd be fined if he said what he wanted to say. There was the incident with Paul Pogba posting something on Instagram when United, I think, they got beaten in the League Cup to Derby County, was it? I want to say, I might be wrong, I think it was. And then Jose sort of pulled him up about it in front of the press at training. Now, Paul Pogba's actually spoken about that. You can see from the graphic there, Paul Pogba's explained it a lot better than I can about his relationship with Jose Mourinho. He says, once I had a great relationship with Mourinho, everybody saw that, and the next day, you don't know what happened. That's the strange thing I had with Mourinho, and I cannot explain to you, because even I don't know. I mean, you can have a lot of theories about this. There's loads of conjecture. It's very difficult to put your finger on it. Some people claim that Zlatan Ibrahimovic leaving was a big factor in it, because Zlatan and Jose had a very good relationship, and Zlatan and Paul Pogba had a very good relationship. So once Zlatan left, they didn't have that sort of go-between, if you will, or the sort of, you know, the mate that brings other mates together. There was none of that. You can look at the injury factor. Jose's not very understanding when players get injured. He has this reputation that if you're injured, he almost doesn't want to speak to you. I think even some of his best players or his most cherished players have said that about him. I think when he was at Chelsea, even John Terry said something about the fact that, good to see RH in the comments, by the way, up the RH. Yeah, he said that even he didn't speak to him when he was injured. So Jose has this sort of attitude: if you're injured, sometimes he doesn't want to know. I don't know if that was a factor, because, as I said, in the second season, Paul Pogba got an injury at a time when we really needed him, at a time when we were trying to put together a title challenge that, as I said earlier, never really got going. So that might be a factor. But it was very bizarre, and it was very disappointing for from a Manchester United point of view, because, like I said, you want your best players and your manager to get on, and that wasn't happening. There was just this sort of relationship that went south, and Paul Pogba finally has spoken about it, because Jose Mourinho's never really gone into it, and you get the idea that, or the impression that there might be some sort of NDA there, or he's not allowed because he got a big payout. He's not allowed to be openly too critical about players. I know he's mentioned certain things. He called one of the players His Highness, I think he says. Now, a lot of people saying that was Paul Pogba he was referring to. He refers to an incident when they were travelling back from a game, and His Highness, as Jose said, wanted not to take the coach back, but wanted to take his own car because he's got a brand new car. And some people were saying that Paul Pogba. Others saying it's not Paul Pogba. I think some people were saying it's Romelu Lukaku. I don't know who it was. I'm not ITK. But either way, Jose's not said a lot specifically about Paul Pogba. He said some things in his commentary, obviously, but not much about why it unravelled when he was at United. Paul Pogba, Jose Mourinho has been quite critical, though, of some United players. He was critical of Marcus Rashford, you remember, earlier this season when he's commentating, or last season when he said he's had 5 seasons now to prove himself, sort of thing. So he's not scared of firing shots. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jose Mourinho reacts to this interview in his usual Jose-esque way, even, with a response and firing his own shots at Paul Pogba. But I think Paul Pogba's got every right to say why he wasn't happy, why things went south, or why he just doesn't understand what went wrong. It's just, it's really strange. It's a bit different under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Someone there saying the Athletic, Laurie Whitwell, confirmed this by this Pogba interview. Yeah, I think Laurie Whitwell did a great article in the Athletic. If you get a chance to read that, check that out, where he sort of delved into Jose's time at Manchester United. He spoke to a lot of people and tried to sort of pick through the bones of it and why it all went wrong, and why Jose ultimately didn't succeed at United. I know he won a couple of trophies and got us a top 2 finish, but let's face facts. It wasn't a success. If it was a success, he wouldn't have got sacked. Do get involved in the comments. Do give us a like as well. Let us know what you think about Jose Mourinho. Things are different under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and Paul Pogba has been speaking about that as well. We know that things have improved. We know that sort of a lot of the players who weren't happy now seem to be happy as well. And then you can see that with Paul Pogba's comments there. He says, what I have now with Ole is different. He wouldn't go against the players. Maybe Ole wouldn't pick them, but it's not like he puts them on the side like they don't exist anymore. That's the difference between Mourinho and Ole. So there you go. It's like that attitude of when Jose Mourinho doesn't pick you, or he doesn't fancy you, or he doesn't fancy to play. You know what I mean? Or you are injured. You're almost forgotten about. He doesn't speak to you. He doesn't have anything to do with you almost. You're just sort of shunned. And some of these players, they need a bit of an arm around them now and again. Jose Mourinho seems to be that manager who very much rules with the iron fist almost constantly. And while sometimes you may need that, you may need a manager who is going to sort of give a player a bit of a rollicking and a bit of a kick up the backside when they need it. You also need a manager who understands that some players are sensitive. Some players, especially younger players, may be struggling. Players, don't forget, right? We all look at footballers and we go, well, they paid loads of money, so they should just be able to get on with it. They should just be able to deal with this. They should be able to just do better. And whilst they expect any player from Manchester United Football Club to put optimum effort in and to try their best and to try their hardest, I don't think it's too much to say that a player who is young, who may be living in a different country or in a different city from where he's grown up, from where many of his family are, may just need a little bit of TLC now and again. They may need a little bit of care. They may need someone to sort of be that. I'm not going to be too melodramatic, but sometimes Fergie could be a father figure to these players. He could, and he's the benchmark here that we want all managers to aspire to. You look at the class of '92. They all speak glowingly of the way Sir Alex Ferguson was to them. They still look at him as something of a father figure, someone who could, yes, he could dish out the hairdryer treatment, but he could also be very sort of caring and concerned for them. Cristiano Ronaldo spoken about that many times. He said that his relationship with Sir Alex was so good because Sir Alex Ferguson cared and he showed that love. And especially when Ronaldo, for example, his dad was really ill and we had a lot of big games coming up. And Sir Alex just said, just go and see your dad. Don't worry about the games. You go and see Dad. And someone in the comments saying there, Sir Jimmy says, Sir Alex was ruthless as well, but also a father figure. Yep, 100%. It could be ruthless, and we know that. And some players he did fall out with. It'd be sort of daft to say he didn't. But he was also, like you say, that manager who understood the psyche of players, and that some players do need a little bit of TLC, a bit of care. And it seems that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer understands that, and he understands that very well. And he understands how to get the best out of some of these players. If you look at Paul Pogba's performances for Manchester United, his best games have come under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. his best ever games for Manchester United. If you look at the run he had when he first Ollie took over as caretaker manager, that was probably Paul Pogba's best consistent spell for Manchester United. And I think we've seen glimpses of that as well. He's probably not had that much of a consistent run, mainly because of injuries. But his performances under Ollie, I think, have been better than they were under Jose. Yes, we had the odd gem under Jose, the Etihad second half, for example. I think the FA Cup semi-final against Spurs as well. Paul Pogba played very well, and there was a game at Goodison Park where he's on the left-hand side of midfield. He was fantastic. But by and large, his best performances have come under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and I think Ole knows how to get the best of him. Speaking of which, one player who has improved a lot under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and who was getting a terrible time of it under Jose, is Luke Shaw. And you can see there from the graphic that Paul Pogba has spoken about that as well. Luke Shaw, I mean, there's a case to be made. I saw a sort of poll doing the rounds. I think it might have been from Manchester Evening News, so you can take it with a bit of a pinch of salt. That Luke Shaw is a contender for United's Player of the Year. Again, he could actually win Player of the Year twice in what is that, 3 seasons, which is quite remarkable considering that many of us thought he just didn't have a future at Manchester United. But you can see there from what Paul Pogba was saying about Luke Shaw. He says, Ollie has helped Luke a lot. It was a difficult season with Luke and Mourinho, and he has proved he has the quality he always had and the trust of the manager. The funny thing with Luke Shaw, it's not funny actually, there was a lot of chat and a lot of reports and a lot of comments coming out that some of the players were surprised or a little bit disappointed by the way Jose handled Luke Shaw. They felt it was very harsh. They felt that the comments he made, both in public and in private, Luke Shaw became a bit of a whipping boy, and it felt like it was a bit of a... It was like he had a bit of an agenda against him almost. You know, there was something he really had against Luke Shaw, and it sort of crossed the line of just trying to get the best out of Luke Shaw to being almost... I don't want to use the word bullying because I think that's a bit overused at times, and I don't want to make light of a big word like that because it is a heady accusation. But he was treating him very harshly, and a lot of people thought it was a little bit too much. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer obviously took a different approach, and he's getting the best out of Luke Shaw. Again, you could argue that Luke Shaw's best performances have come under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Some may say he was better for Louis van Gaal before his injury. I think now he's at that sort of level. I thought he was fantastic before his injury, and I think he's playing almost as well, if not as good, just now. Robert McCarthy in the Super Chat says, I have to ask why United / Sky have released this interview. What do United want to achieve by releasing it? Seems very off-brand for United's media team. I think is that off-brand. I mean... I think there's no issue with them releasing this interview. If you sit down with a player, whether you're Sky, whether you're the Manchester News or one of the national newspapers, whoever it is, then you want to know what's going on. You want to know like the ins and outs and the juiciness of the stories. And with Paul Pogba, what is a big story about Paul Pogba and Manchester United is why things didn't work out under Jose Mourinho. What happened with that relationship? So I don't have a problem with Sky airing that interview or publishing it and asking those questions. And I don't have an issue with Paul Pogba speaking out. I think that sometimes I prefer it when players are sort of kinder towards ex-managers. I think I like that. I like that if they praise an ex-manager. I think Luke Shaw did it against Pochettino, and Mourinho even praised him for it. He said, I ain't got a problem with him praising a full manager. But he's got every right to be honest and open, Paul Pogba. And if that's what went down, and if he felt that, that's why, he doesn't know why the relationship went sour, but it did, then I don't have a problem with him saying that. I don't think he should be silenced or not able to say it. And I don't have a problem with Sky airing that. I think sometimes it's good to see a bit of honesty in an interview rather than just the bland sort of, we take every game as it comes and obviously, what I try and do my best for the team and all that sort of nonsense that you see before every game. This is actually a bit of an interesting one. Should we move on to some transfer news? Because we've not had any transfer news this morning, have we? I don't know what's going on there. We must be slacking a little bit. Apparently, Manchester United are in the hunt for Nikola Milinkovic. They're going to preparing, I think they're looking at a £38 million or ready to step up their pursuit, I should say, of the £38 million defender. He's refusing to sign a new deal at Fiorentina, and it looks like Manchester United could be in for him. I think this story's come from the Daily Mail, and a few other papers have got it as well. Well, I'm not sure where it's come from, but it's being covered everywhere in the British sort of papers this morning. His contract expires in 2022. You can see from the sort of the graphics there. I mean, decent. Scored the odd goal as well. Highly rated, quite young. He's in that sort of youngish bracket where he's not a kid, but he's still relatively young. You still think he'd expect he's got another level to go. Kirthan Chandra says, we're all Pogba FC today, aren't we, Jay? Even though I don't like it all that Pogba and Martial FC, I think Paul Pogba's playing very well. I personally want Paul Pogba to stay. We'll have to wait and see whether that happens. I don't think it will. But if he doesn't stay, regardless of what happens, I want to see the best of him between now and the end of the season. Anyway, back to Milinkovic-Savic. Yeah, because his contract expires next year, it looks like he is going to move on this summer if Fiorentina want to get some decent money for him. And there's a few other clubs that are interested. Apparently Chelsea are in for him as well, to keeping tabs on him, and AC Milan. So you'll have to wait and see what happens with that one, because if we do get involved in a bidding war with Chelsea, that's not great. And obviously I'd probably put money on them getting him if that's the case, because they've got the money to spend, where we have money, but our owners are just parasitical and they don't spend it as much as they should, because it's our money, not theirs, and yet they don't invest enough of it in the club. But I won't go down that rabbit hole. I'll be here all day. So yeah, with the problems we've got, with some of our defenders, Eric Bailly, apparently there's concerns about his future. He's not too happy. Sorry, did I say Milinkovic-Savic? Someone said that. I keep saying that. Apologies, I've got him on the brain because we're linked with him as well, the midfielder. But yes, Nikola Milinkovic is the one I'm talking about. But yeah, Chelsea linked with him. We need another centre-back, don't we? We need someone to partner Harry Maguire. Some people may argue that Victor Lindelof's the right man for the job. I think our record with Lindelof and Maguire isn't that bad, actually. People just tend to sort of criticise Lindelof a little bit more, because one of the main gripes a lot of people have, and I've been one of these people who've commented on this, is the fact that they don't seem sometimes like the ideal partnership. Eric Bailly and Harry Maguire seems like a more suited partnership, but the problem with that one is Eric Bailly's always injured. He can't get a run in a team, and unfortunately, it looks like he's not happy to sign a new deal. He wants to leave. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. Obviously, Phil Jones is pretty much done, isn't he? Axel Tuanzebe played very well last night. I was very impressed with Axel. There's still question marks over him. He had a torrid time of it last season with injuries. He's had a patchy season this season. Hasn't played a lot. Had that fantastic performance against Paris Saint-Germain, and then had a really bad one, didn't he, against Istanbul. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Axel, because I think Axel could be a good partner for Harry Maguire, but I just don't know whether it's going to happen for him long term. I don't know whether he's going to end up being a future Manchester United player. I hope he is, because I really rate him, and as a youngster, he was one of the shining stars in the young academy team, but we'll have to wait and see. He had a very good loan spell at Aston Villa. There's even some suggestions that he may end up going back there, possibly, as part of a Jack Grealish move, but that's pure speculation, conjecture. I won't get too carried away with that one. In the super chat, Miles Von Eaton says, the more I've seen him play, the more I want United to consider Yves Bissouma. He'd come in and improve our starting 11 immediately. Good shout. Let us know what you think. Do you think he could be the man who could come in and improve our team? A few people have been saying that. He's obviously having a decent season in here at Brighton. They're a team, Brighton, that despite the fact they're at the wrong end of the table, they play good football and they play well. They just can't finish the dinner. The finishing is terrible. So that's their issue. It's not that they're a poor team and that they've got poor players. It's just poor strikers, really. Apart from Danny Welbeck, who is the greatest striker in the history of association football. Should we move on to one more story? Talking of centre-backs, we were a minute ago, weren't we? Raphael Varane. Raphael Varane, one of the greatest defenders arguably on the planet, can we say that? One of the most successful anyway. I know Ronaldo Brown didn't think that. He thinks he's not lived up to the hype. But there's a talk that Manchester United, I was mentioning there about a Tuanzebe swap deal with Jack Grealish, which isn't a story. It's just some rumours that are doing the rounds. Get that in there before people accuse me of starting something. But there's a story in the rounds that maybe Manchester United could be up for some swap deals with Raphael Varane and Real Madrid, and it's looking at this is I think it was the Express. They love doing this. The Express. They were doing this the other day with Jesse Lingard and Arsenal, and they always like to sort of look at players that Manchester United have got or players that another club have got, and who they could do a swap deal with. Now, I kind of get that idea and that the sort of the notion that we could do a swap deal for Varane, or players or teams, could do a swap deal with us to get a player that they want, whether that's Jesse Lingard, even though I didn't think the one the other day about Jesse Lingard going to Arsenal on a swap deal I thought that was nonsense, and I said so. But there's a suggestion here that maybe Manchester United, if you want to get Varane, could look at doing some form of swap deal. One player who's noted in this article is David De Gea. Could there be a deal to be made there? Would De Gea go to Real Madrid? Probably. I mean, I know he was at Atletico, but was it one broken fax machine away from ended up at Real Madrid a few years ago? He's obviously not first choice anymore. I know he played last night, but he's a Europa League goalkeeper for Manchester United, which is second choice basically, behind Dean Henderson. So he's on massive money. He's probably going to move on sooner or later. Would a swap deal, some form of swap deal with Raphael Varane work? Maybe. It kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense there. They have always liked David De Gea. He's a player that they have been interested in. David De Gea is a player that is sort of surplus to requirements at Manchester United. So, would that be a deal that they could go for? I mean, I don't know. It depends. I mean, do you know what I mean? I don't know if Real Madrid would even want him, but still want him because he's not the David De Gea that he was a few years ago. But who knows? Another player being spoken about in this article is Donny van de Beek. I don't think Donny van de Beek's going anywhere. I think that's a load of rubbish. But they're saying maybe that could be a swap deal. I think there's a little bit of sort of melodrama, about Donny van de Beek. And people get overexcited about the fact he's not started that many games and he has been mainly used as a sub. I think he's played about 28 games or something daft. But a lot of them were a substitute. Last night he played a substitute. People go, he's not getting enough games. I think he's being brought in gradually. I get what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is doing. We've also got options in midfield. So I kind of understand it. I don't think Donny van de Beek's going to go in the summer. But who knows? Who knows? I just don't see that happening as a swap deal. I'm going to file that under very unlikely. Another player they've suggested is Anthony Martial. Again, you could argue it makes sense a little bit. Anthony Martial hasn't had a great season. I think he's 4 Premier League goals this season. I mean, he was fantastic last season in terms of goal scoring. I think his performances have been better than his goal output suggests. But yeah, he's maybe he could be used as a deal. Do Real Madrid want him, and does he want to go? I'm not entirely sure. And I think, and there's the final one, back to where we started. Paul Pogba. They've suggested that Paul Pogba could perhaps be the one who was used as a swap deal. Maybe. I mean, despite the fact that sometimes these swap deal articles are nonsensical, there's one or two there that sort of make sense. You look at it and looking at the fact there's a pandemic, you look at the fact that players like Paul Pogba and David De Gea have been sought after by Madrid in the past, then maybe there is a deal to be made. United do need a centre-back. Raphael Varane is one of the best centre-backs, I'd argue, in the world. I think his record speaks for itself. Not just the amount of facts he plays for Real Madrid, and he's obviously, a regular for them, but look at what he's won. You don't win that amount of trophies unless you're very good at football. It's that simple. Like, he's not been a bit part player in winning these trophies. He's been a starting player in teams that have won the World Cup, several La Ligas, several Champions Leagues. Is it 4 Champions Leagues or something stupid like that? In fact, let me get his actual record up here. I always forget how many trophies he's won. And people go, well, Anderson won 4 Premier Leagues. It doesn't mean anything title, everything trophies. Well, it does if you start in most of those games and you're a big part of the reason you've won them. Then, yeah, it does matter, and I think that speaks for itself. Yeah, he's won 3 La Ligas, he's won 4 Champions League, and he's won, if you care about that sort of thing, he's won 4 FIFA World Cups, and he's also, FIFA Club World Cup, and he's also won the World Cup with France. So, yeah, some people have criticised Varane and saying he's got one in him. Sometimes he has got a bit of a mistake, but I think those get exaggerated. I think it's one of those, it's like Nemanja Vidic. Do you remember people say, he always had a bad game against Torres? Well, he didn't. Torres scored 3 goals in 15 games against Nemanja Vidic. It's just when they made that one mistake for that goal, everyone brought it up and everyone focuses on it. And I think there's a touch of that with Varane when he does make a mistake. People go, look, he's error prone. He's not error prone. Error prone players don't win the amount of trophies that he has won. I'm gonna wrap it up there. Just before I do though, do get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know whether you like any of those stories, potential signings, whether you like Varane, whether you like Milinkovic, whether you think there is a swap deal to be made there as well, and what you've made of the Jose Mourinho and Paul Pogba, the Paul Pogba comments about Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho still has a lot of love done by a certain section of the United fan base, and I get it, because I was there in Stockholm. It was a fantastic night and it was great to see us win that trophy, but there's a lot of fans out there who absolutely rave about Jose Mourinho and going about the fact, he's the best manager we've had post-Fergie and that we should bring him back, and he was hard done by. And I think he was hard done by the board. If you look after that 2018 season in the summer, where we obviously, we finished second, 19 points behind City. You wanted us to go again. You wanted us to really go for it in the transfer market. We didn't. We brought in Fred, we brought in Diogo Dalot, and we brought in Lee Grant as a third-choice goalkeeper. that's not going to help you catch Manchester City. Liverpool as well were in the ascendancy. They just got to a Champions League final. City went out and bought Riyad Mahrez at the time, their most expensive ever signing. Liverpool had obviously bought players in as well. I think that was the summer they bought in Alisson and Naby Keita as well. So instead of making that jump up, which we should have done, we didn't bring in the centre-back that Jose Mourinho wanted. He was obviously upset, and he sort of made that statement with some of his team selections and other things that went on. But you can't disguise the fact that he fell out with everyone. He fell out with... Okay, I get falling out with the board or being upset with the board for not backing you, but he criticised the young players when we went on the pre-season tour. He fell out with Andy Martial. He fell out with Paul Pogba. It just seems like he fell out with Luke Shaw. It just seems to be getting like a bit silly. He fell out at one point with Romelu Lukaku when Romelu Lukaku couldn't play or didn't think he was fit enough to play in the FA Cup final. So it did seem to get a little bit like Jose Mourinho just fell out of everyone. And ultimately, the results went against him and it was time for him to move on. But the Jose saga at Manchester United continues to rumble on. So if we do see or hear anything from Jose Mourinho, because I expect we will, I expect him to respond to that interview. He's not sort of shy coming forward unless he's got one of those ridiculous airtight NDAs where he's not allowed to say anything, which I doubt. I think he'll be allowed to respond to criticism from a former player. Then you can expect Jose Mourinho to perhaps fire some shots back in Paul Pogba's direction, regardless of what went on. We just want to see Paul Pogba playing well and moving forward for Manchester United and hopefully staying. I hope he does sign a new deal. I don't think he will, but you never know. Fingers crossed. Just before I wrap up, we're going to look at some of the comments, what people are saying. People sort of debating about Paul Pogba, whether he proved him wrong. Or someone else saying, Floating Man says, will Varane still have that hunger, though, about I mentioned there, about Raphael Varane potentially coming to Manchester United? And people saying, or someone commenting there, about the fact that when you've won the lot, do you still have that hunger? This is the thing, though. Some players that have won the lot have won it because they've got that hunger, because they've got that will to win, because they've got that desire, because they've got that edge. You look at someone like, a great example is Roy Keane. He won a lot, but every time he won something, he just forgot about it, and he's on to the next one. Now, I'm not saying Raphael Varane is Roy Keane. No one is. But hugely successful players, usually are hugely successful because they've always got that will to win and that desire. And you might look at it and go, well, someone commenting, was it just a big pay packet? Yes, he's obviously going to get a lot of money if he comes to Manchester United Football Club, but I don't think at 27 years old, I think he'll be 28 by the time he joins us. Raphael Varane is going to come here for a holiday, or I'll just go to United for a bit just to sort of spend the last big contracts in my career kicking it around the Premier League and not really winning anything. He's going to come from Real Madrid having won the lot, and he's going to want to win things. And I think you need players you need that mentality. Bruno's got that mentality. Ironically, he's not won anything, but he's got that mentality. You can see it in him. And I think Raphael Varane would be one of those players that could bring that to Old Trafford, to the dressing room, bring that sort of thing of that will to win. Because you look at it, and Carlo Ancelotti has brought it a little bit to Everton. You see his reaction sometimes. You can tell that he's a born winner. He's not the guy that's getting overexcited about an equaliser in the League Cup or whatever. This is a guy that's won the lot several times. Is it 3 Champions League? So he's bringing that to Everton. You expect he wants the very best there. Callum's just gone past with a brew. You making brews for everyone, Cal? Yeah. Good lad, thank you. What a trooper. He's definitely one of my favourite producers. Probably my second favourite, just about. Someone saying there, Jonas Lowick says, Bruno Fernandes must be captain of Manchester United. I wouldn't strip Harry Maguire of the captaincy. I think it'd be harsh. I think that wouldn't be praising or promoting Bruno. It'd be demoting Harry Maguire. And I don't think that's what we need. I think Sam Pilgers did an interesting tweet, I'm not sure it's an article, it's definitely a tweet, I'm not sure it's done an article, about Harry Maguire, and the fact that since Harry Maguire has come into the Manchester United team, or last 28 games, the amount of goals we've conceded has sort of decreased rapidly. There you go, just brought it up. It says Harry Maguire deserves more respect. In the season before Maguire joined, United conceded 1.42 goals per Premier League game. In the last 28 Premier League games, United have conceded just 0.82. So if you're into that sort of thing, which I am, I want our defenders to defend and us not to concede as many goals, Harry Maguire's done well. I know he had a bit of a patchy start to the season, but he's done really well. So would we want to take the captaincy off him? And then, Kirthan says, Bruno is the captain without the tag, hence without the pressure. Yeah. Someone else saying, some good shout, Maguire needs captaincy to thrive. There's a bit of chat going on, and people commenting there saying, Bruno can still be a leader without being a captain. Nicky Butt was never a captain, or he might have been captain now and again, I think, I'm not sure. But he was almost, he was one of those players that could lead by example and a bit of a leader and was quite vocal. You look at some of the other players we had, who were in that team. Don't forget, we had a team at one point. I think you had Rio Ferdinand, you had Nemanja Vidic, you had Patrice Evra, you had Edwin van der Sar, you had Wayne Rooney, you had you could probably throw in Michael Carrick into that mix as well. And for a lot of that time, Ryan Giggs was the captain. And it was like, you've got all these leaders, all these very vocal players, these players that have that desire, that will to win, that tell the teammates what's going on, that are in the refs here, that are just leaders that are sort of, have that about them, have that aura about them. But for a point, I know Rio eventually was captain, and so were the others eventually. But for a point, none of them were the captain. So you don't have to wear the armband to be a leader. And I think that Harry Maguire deserves to keep it. Also, just jokes. Joshy says captains have to be different in this era. Stripping players down on the pitch doesn't work anymore, which is why I believe Bruno hasn't got the armband and Maguire has. Yes, what a legend. What an absolute trooper. Thanks, Cal. Someone's saying there, making a really good point there about the fact that you don't have to, in this day and age, captaincy can be a little bit different. You don't see it as often as you used to, do you? Players getting berated. You still see it. I mean, it still happens. We've seen Ole Gunnar Solskjaer do it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who's got this sort of reputation of being this sort of avuncular character who's just dead friendly towards everyone and, hasn't got that edge to him. We've seen him strip down players. We've seen him shout at players. The most famous one was obviously Jesse Lingard at the Etihad, where he sort of said to him, do that again, and Jesse. So he's got that bit in him, and you do see it. But by and large, now captains don't tend to be that Brian Robson, Roy Keane. Brian Robson didn't usually used to strip down players; he was more motivational. Roy Keane could often, have a dig at players if he thought the levels were dropping. That's a bit different now. I think you don't tend to see that as often, although you can still see it. And I think Bruno with him, he'll shout at anyone. I think he just shouts in general if he's not happy with what's going on, whether that's the ref, whether it's the opposition, whether it's some of his own teammates. Also, I've seen it with Maguire, and I think Luke Shaw Harry Maguire might have had a positive impact on Luke Shaw as well, because Harry Maguire is very vocal towards Luke Shaw, and I think he might be a good sort of defensive figure for him to work alongside as well, because he's not sure if you listen, because you can hear it a lot more now about the crowd, can't you, when you watch it on the telly. Harry Maguire can be very vocal. He just doesn't have that quite same aura that some of the other players I mentioned. Mark F says, does Cam make a good brew? It was producer Cal. Producer Cam's the one that's producing this today. It was Callum who made that brew, in case any of you were wondering. Someone else has asked me as well, Floating Man, which position do you think is first priority, Jay? I'd probably think, I've changed this, so I may change it again between now and transfer window. I would have said striker a few weeks ago. I felt we needed a striker, but now I'm beginning to think that right wing may be the priority for several reasons. One, I think Mason Greenwood sooner or later is going to be a striker for Manchester United. Two, we haven't got a right winger, and we're forcing Mason Greenwood to play there. Even Dan James, I know Dan James can play on there, but is he a first team player? Even he prefers the left wing, I think. He likes to cut in. Marcus obviously prefers playing on the left. Anthony Martial prefers either the middle or the left. So we don't have that right winger, and it's a bit of a nonsense that a club like Manchester United doesn't have an out-and-out right winger. Now, you can look at it and go, well, Ahmed Diallo's been brought in for that, but how far off is he? So, I don't know. I think probably the two positions, if I can cheat and do two, one is right wing and another one is a midfielder, because I think Paul Pogba's going to go, and I think he's going to need replacing. Some may say, well, you can just bring in Donny van der Beek. He can step up. For Paul Pogba, I'm not so sure. I think you need to bring in someone if Paul Pogba moves on. And also, even if he doesn't, I think you might need an out-and-out DM. We haven't got one. You look at it, we're playing McFred. We're playing Fred and McTominay there, aren't they? But neither of those two are a defensive midfielder. Fred's box-to-box, and so is McTominay. So you played two box-to-box midfielder and asking him to be playing as a defensive, and they can't really do that. And if you look at Nemanja Matic, who is a defensive midfielder, actually ironically started off as more of a number 10, but yeah, for the last 10 years he's been a defensive midfielder. His videos, I've just read the word video then and said it. Turned into Ron Burgundy. His performances have tailed off a little bit. Ronaldo Brown makes a very good point. Like the video, peeps. Give it a like. So Mark F says, we all moan about Pogba until he plays, and then we realise how crucial he is. We do. I think that's true. You look at it in the summer, prime example of this. In the summer, Paul Pogba getting loads of pelters. People saying, oh, do you know what? We don't need Paul Pogba, not in the summer, sorry, in lockdown. We don't need Paul Pogba. We've got Bruno Fernandes. Paul Pogba's, he doesn't want to be here. He's always injured. He's playing basketball. He's at his brother's wedding. All this other nonsense that I didn't really care about. Criticising him. What happens? First game back, Spurs away. we're 1-0 down. Paul Pogba comes on as sub, gets us a penalty. All of a sudden, everyone's like, actually, we do need Paul Pogba. We've seen it this season. When Bruno had a little bit of a dip, who steps up? Paul Pogba. You look at the games against Burnley and Fulham in particular, probably throw West Ham away into that mix. Paul Pogba steps up. So the idea that we don't need him is think he's wrong. It's just I don't think we're going to keep him. Nasser 8 says I think if Paul Pogba didn't have Raiola as his agent, then he'd get a lot more recognition and praise. I agree. I think he probably would, but he has got Raiola as his agent, and Raiola has Paul Pogba's ears. Has his ears? Sorry, not his ears. I know he's an agent. He like a lot, but he don't want his ears. Paul Pogba listens to him. He's known him since he's a kid. And Raiola, he just never shuts up, does he? He just does my head in. Constantly just coming out with just daft comments. The one on the eve of the Leipzig game really annoyed me because it was just the timing of it. Paul Arrow in the chat says, Hargreaves mentioned Rafinha last night. What do you reckon for right wing? Good shout. Good player. Doing well this season. We have been linked with him. Can we get another player from Leeds? We've done all right, haven't we, getting players from Leeds? You look at it, some French dude called Eric Sommer, I forget. Where is he? There he is, yeah. You can't see him, but he's there. Rio Ferdinand, we got him from Leeds as well. Who we're missing? Alan Smith did all right, won a title. Do you know what I mean? So maybe we can, I just don't know. It might be a bit of a difficult one. But stranger things have happened. We've had, bigger stars from Leeds, so maybe we could go in there with him. Again, though, we need someone to go on that right-hand side. Seabird says, James to Leeds. Yes, could that happen? Dan James was linked with Leeds. He almost went to Leeds when he was at Swansea. Didn't, obviously, came to Manchester United instead because I think the deal fell through. So would the swap deal be on the cards? I don't know if that's going to happen. I think Dan James is still highly regarded by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And I don't know if he'd look to move him on. I know I was talking earlier about swap deals and maybe there could be some swaps going on there. But I don't think Dan James being swapped for Rafinha is one that will happen. I just don't think Dan James is going anywhere. But who knows? Stranger things have happened. And if Ollie really wanted him, and he felt Dan James felt like he wasn't wanted by Ollie, maybe there's a deal there. But I'd file that under doubtful. Jose Hernandez says, "Do you think Bruno's drop of form could be due to Martial's?" I don't know. I mean, Martial's had a bigger drop of form than Bruno. Bruno has these little odd pockets, doesn't he? He has 2 or 3 games sometimes where he's not at the level that you expect from him, and I think that part of that is just because of is the high standards he set. Bruno Fernandes sets such high standards that when he has a game, sometimes when he has a game where he gets an assist and a goal, people go, he's not been that great today. So yeah, I don't think. I think we could. I don't think it is linked. Sorry, to Andy Martial. I think it's more of a case that sometimes Bruno is one of those players that because he's always trying as well. He's always trying those ambitious things. When they don't come off, it does look, it doesn't look too good. But we want a player that does it and is able to do it more often than not. And he is. Someone else saying, Paul Arrow says, "Nice one, Jay. Swap deal episode today, lol." It has been a bit, hasn't it? Yeah, we have mentioned a lot of swap deals potentially. We mentioned the Rafael Varane one, then the David De Gea one. Well, part of the Rafael Varane one, and now other people mention other ones. So yeah, it has been. A bit of a swap deal episode. Kirthan Chandra says, Bruno's drop of form is an assist, ? Yeah, it's sort of true, and it's like Bruno only gets an assist, you say. He's not been doing too well today, has he? But it's weird because I thought Bruno Fernandes would have been a shoo-in for United Player of the Year this season, United Player of the Season. I thought that would have been open and shut. But from a recent poll, and I know it was at the MEN, so you can take it with a pinch of salt, it looks like Luke Shaw could be a lot of people's choice for Player of the Season, which I'm not denigrating Luke Shaw because he's had a fantastic season. I just thought it was just for me the obvious one with practically a goal involvement every game was Bruno Fernandes and the way that he's sort of taken United to another level. It would be open and shut, but who knows? Maybe Luke Shaw could be our player. That doesn't mean that Bruno Fernandes hasn't had a fantastic season. Top Sensors, if Paul believes we should play Bruno behind Donny, but more advanced where he could get more of the ball. Maybe, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see what happens if and when Paul Pogba leaves, which I think he will. What happens with Donny van der Beek? Is it a straight swap? Does he come in and is he asked to play in the Paul Pogba role, or do we sign someone? Which is what I see. Just give us a curly finger if you want, Mr. Cams. Cams, let us know that we've actually been doing a lot longer on this live news because it just kept going. There's quite a few people watching. I've just kept it going. And quite a lot of people in the chat and making some good points and some good questions. So I've just rambled on a little bit. credit. I think Sri Krishna said, yes, I will. Nice one, Cam. Says, credit to old for the fantastic job. I think he means Ollie there. I think, you need to give Ollie a bit of credit. And we've seen it this today with Paul Pogba coming out and saying what he said. He's been praising Ollie. Luke Shaw has performed much better under Ollie. And if you look at the sort of the criticism that Ollie's has got, it's the fact that, there you go, you can see the graphic there again. What Paul Pogba says about Jose Mourinho, for example, compared to Ollie, you see there what I have now with Ollie is different. He wouldn't go against the players. Maybe Ollie wouldn't pick them, but it's not like he puts them on the side like they don't exist anymore. That's the difference between Mourinho and Ollie. You can see it, and I think that the one stick that everyone beats him with is the fact he hasn't won a trophy. Now, I get that. Listen, I've spoilt little brat. I've been brought up on trophies, since I was 5. We won our first trophy when I was 5 years older. We just kept winning them until I was, 37 or something. So I've always seen trophies my entire life at Manchester United. It's exactly what I expect. But this is a little bit different in the sense that Ollie inherited a mess. He did. You can see it here. Paul Pogba's disillusioned. Luke Shaw's disillusioned. You've got Romelu Lukaku, whose form had fallen off a cliff. It wasn't a happy camp. That's the reason Jose got sacked. We were miles away from the top of the table. Ollie's come in, turned things around. We have been to a lot of semi-finals, which in itself is a kind of a positive because you're getting past a lot of good teams. You get into the later stages. You've beaten some big teams on the way. We've gone to the Emirates and beaten Arsenal. We've gone to Chelsea, Stamford Bridge and beaten Chelsea. We've beaten Liverpool in some of these cup runs. There's been big results in these cup runs, but we haven't got to a final and we haven't won a trophy. And that is where a lot of Ollie's critics aim a little bit of shade at him. And I can understand that because it's like, all right, we should be winning trophies. But you can see the positivity there. You can see the fact we're moving forward. You can see the players are happier. You can see we are getting to the last stages. And I have that feeling that sooner or later it's going to come good. And I hate to use this comparison, but I will, forgive me. You look at Jurgen Klopp. There was always this feeling that, wasn't there? Sooner or later, Jurgen Klopp's going to win a final. Because he didn't do 6 finals and he lost on the spin. And it was like, sooner or later it's going to happen. And unfortunately, it did happen. It happened in the Champions League final, sod's law. But you feel like it's coming together with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Sooner or later, it's one of these semi-finals. Probably for me, the one against Roma is going to turn into a final because I think we can beat Roma over 2 legs. I think you were very unlucky last season in the Europa League because we played, obviously, Sevilla. And the problem with that is Sevilla are a very good team. We were knackered. And I don't like making excuses about, fitness, they're on 150 grand a week, they should be fit. You could see the players look goosed. They did. They were dead on their feet. And when he did try to mix it up in the semi-final against Chelsea, he brought in the likes of Odi Nagalo and 1 or 2 others, played a bit of a second-string team. We just got torn apart. It was just a bit of a nightmare. So this season, I feel a lot more positive going into the semi-final because the players look like they're in good form. Paul Pogba's playing as well as he's ever played for Manchester United. Luke Shaw's playing as well as he's ever played for Manchester United. In the Marcus Rashford, you've got him being as productive as he's ever been. I think he's on for his best record in terms of goals and assists. Bruno Fernandes in the chat says, have you got a cold, bro? A little bit, yeah. I'm glad someone's noticed. But yeah, the sort of stage is set for us to get to a final in the Europa League. I think it's, not just possible, it's probable. And I'd be very disappointed if we couldn't get past a very beatable Roma team over those 2 legs with the players that we've got playing the way they are and the players that Roma have got. We're just a much better team than Roma. And I think as well, if you look at it, we get past Roma. Who have we got in the final? We've got Villarreal or Arsenal. So it's all doable. I am going to wrap it up there, but this has been an extended paper talk because everyone's been chatting. I've really enjoyed it. So thanks for everyone who got involved. Thanks. If you're not doing, give the video a like. If you're not subscribing to the channel, give us a subscribe. Get subscribing. We've got loads coming up. We've obviously got the Burnley game coming up this weekend. Thanks, Maurice, for our listeners. Jay, this has been a good show. Oh, good shout from producer Camp. Yes, we've got an interview with Giuseppe Rossi. It's a fantastic... You know what? I love these interviews, with players that... We're at United. We had a great one with Ravel Morrison, didn't we? Macca did Ravel Morrison the other week. Who were at United and, didn't have that long United career for whatever reason. It just didn't happen. And Giuseppe Rossi was a player that at one time everyone thought this could be the next big thing. This kid could be, United's new striker for years to come. Didn't quite happen. And if you watch that interview, which will be up, I think is it next week we're putting it up. Next week, it's really good. It's a fantastic interview, and there's lots of exclusives in there. Thank you, producer Cam. Give me the words that I need. Yeah, lots of exclusives and some things you're like, wow, really? Because he's had such a colourful career, such a successful career as well. Just because he wasn't successful at United, don't forget the fact the guy went to Villarreal and scored like 1 in 2. Absolutely tore up. Scored a hat-trick against Juventus, that had Paul Pogba and Carlos Tevez in the team and had Antonio Conte as the manager. So he's had a very exciting career, and he talks about it to Adam McCullough as well as obviously Sam United. So make sure you check it out. We've got to watch along this weekend as well. We've got Andy Tate's here, Joe Smith's here as well, and Stephen Howson. Yes, thank you. How can I forget? Stephen Howson's on the watch along, so make sure you're watching that. We'll have the preview up as well before the game. Obviously, why would we have it after the game? That won't make any sense. And the Brew, we've got a special guest for the Brew who's going to come in and talk about his book. In fact, you know what? I can do this. Can I do that if I can do it quickly enough? Sorry, this is great. Great what viewing in it, me messing about in my bag. I'm just trying to get this book out. I might have to give up on this, because it's stuck. It's stuck in my bag. It's the book, My United. Oh, there you go. I've done it. There you go. So Nicky Wells, one of the authors of that. There he is. That's in there. He's going to come in and chat about his book. Great book there. He's had everyone reading it. For Sir Alex Ferguson, everyone's been posting pictures or someone's posted them on his behalf of him reading it. So he'll be in for the Brew to talk about that. So you've got you covered. We're looking backwards, a bit of nostalgia. We're looking forwards at the games as well. Get involved. Make sure you're subscribing. Go and check out the members section if you're not doing. We've got some extra content on there. Have a look at the merchandise. Some of you watching the watch along last night would have seen some of the merch we were wearing. Lots of people talking about that. Go and have a look at some of the t-shirts we've got available there. This has been an extended Paper Talk. I've been Jay Motti. Thanks for watching.